Nick, give him your wallet.
What for?
He's got a knife.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today it's time to do another thoughts video, I suppose is the way to put it. And the reason why I'm making this video is because I had a chat with Chaos, and if you don't know who Chaos is, he is a person that hangs out on the Discord sometimes, and generally he has a lot of interesting discussion points to come up with. And what I like about Chaos, and have done for a long time, is that he is incredibly opinionated and really good at articulating, why or what he believes. So it's very easy to understand where he's coming from, and very easy to actually have a long-form conversation about his ideas. Now, today, he hits me up and basically talks about, when it comes to the videos I've been making, about the idea of, how can I personally be excited about, supersonic jets or the Challenger and stuff like this, when inherently I am a prop head, and I'm also, a lower tier tank player. I prefer, if we're being, personal opinion wise, my favorite parts of War Thunder are propeller driven aircraft. For the aerialistic part. For ground realistic, I really like rank 1 to rank 4, and maybe a little bit of rank 5 nowadays. For naval, I like arcade. It's as simple as that. The reason why I like these things is all different. But the main point that he was getting across was, it is weird hearing, when talking about these dev blogs, why am I interested or why am I enthusiastic about these new things, even though they don't personally kind of benefit me? They don't. There's not a lot of stuff in this update, if we actually look at it, that I'm generally interested in. You pretty much got rank 1 Italy, rank 2 Italy, ground forces, then you got rank 3 Italy, and then after that, we're going to have to see what it looks like, but overall, the supersonic jets I have no interest in. The Bradley, once again, it's a gateway for me to get into top tier, but it's going to be crazily expensive research-wise, and I'm not interested in it. The Challenger is a top tier vehicle in tanks, once again, not really interested in top tier. So why am I, even though personally I'm not interested in these, why am I still kind of hyped for them? Why am I still enthusiastic about them? And I do think this is an important point, because if just from the outside, it makes it look like I'm either faking it, or it's, kind of the... what's the word, like the fake hype idea, or the fake enthusiasm. And all I can say is this is not true. And the reason for this is because with the addition of supersonic jets, with the addition of the Challenger, and with the addition of the Bradley, even though I'm personally not interested in those vehicles specifically, what they represent is a next step into a new part of, first of all, the game, I think, is the best way of putting it. It's especially when we look at the supersonic jets, it is really interesting to think about how the meta of supersonic jets is going to play, because we haven't had supersonic jets before. So even though I am personally not interested in playing it, what I am interested in looking at is seeing how other people play it and watching other people, do really well in it. I mentioned in the supersonic jet videos that I will not really play them. And the reason is because I don't find them interesting, especially from a playstyle point of view. But I do enjoy watching people do and play supersonic jets. So that is where, the enjoyment for me comes from. And I think there is a disconnect when I'm talking about what I personally like and then what I overall think is good for the game. So there have been a lot of changes over the last year or so that I have personally disliked. The addition of stuff like rank 6 tanks, I still disagree with. I personally disagree with them, and the reason for this is because a lot of them are full of classified information, mostly the armor on a lot of the vehicles. And I understand you're going to bring, you're going to bring your sources, and you're going to try and prove me wrong, but no. Now, unfortunately, a lot of the vehicles have still classified components, and what this means is that you cannot model them completely accurately. So they are not realistic machines to me. What they are instead is very much unrealistic machines, because there is no way we can accurately model them. So because of this, I'm not interested in them from a holistic point of view. But I know a lot of people who are. And this is where the idea of personal opinion and community opinion comes in. So I have talked about a lot that I think using the idea of the community is a bad idea. And the reason for this is because you can go anywhere in the War Thunder community and you can find people to either agree with you, disagree with you, debate with you, argue with you, whatever. But the main point of bringing up that idea is that the War Thunder community is so split on so many different issues, it is very hard to find a cohesive voice in it, And when there is a cohesive voice, it's generally because, Gaijin cocked up in some way, or at least, people deem them to be cocked up. So, with that said, when we talk about stuff like the M1 Abrams and things like that, the personal community of like the Tech Hub, or the communities that I generally see in War Thunder and I talk to, they are interested in rank 6 ground forces. There is a lot of the talking points that a lot of the veteran players that I've talked to personally are around are the top tier vehicles. So because that is the case, they have to be talked about. Just because I personally am not interested in it, because the communities that I reside in are interested in it, therefore I have to learn about them, and therefore I have to understand them, and therefore I will understand them. Or at least from my point of view, I will understand them. So you don't have to enjoy something to understand how it works, and you don't have to enjoy it to also be able to commentate on it. So that talks about why, I talk about these things and why they're important to talk about. Let's talk about the enthusiasm thing, because this is an interesting one. In the Supersonic Jets video, it was pointed out by a lot of people that I was really, really happy because of one line, basically, in that whole dev blog. And the reason I was happy was because of a thought process. One thing that the Supersonic Jets dev blog showed me was that while we are getting air-to-air missiles in the game, and that's really cool and everything, an afterthought had been put towards countermeasures against air-to-air missiles. Now this represents a larger, broader idea. And this is why I'm enthusiastic. Not because of the fact that there is air-to-air missiles, or the fact that there is supersonic jets, okay? Because for those, I couldn't care less. But the thought process that was put forward in that dev blog was, yes, we're adding new mechanics, we know you're going to enjoy these new mechanics, but at the same time, we're going to add in countermeasures. This has not happened in War Thunder's history. This has never been talked about in War Thunder's history, from a gameplay point of view. Whenever they have added a new mechanic in the game, there has never been talk of countermeasures to that mechanic. And if that is a thought process going forward from Gaijin HQ, that is incredibly important, because it means that it won't just be who has the best mechanics or who has access to whatever the flavor of the month thing is, whether it be the AGM bullpup when the camera was following the missile, whether it be when the rockets didn't have a full damage model and they were just one-shotting everything, whether it be something like the Horton when it had really good HVAC belts in Air Realistic. Instead of exploiting the game because of a mechanic that was added without a counter, we now have a different way of approaching things. So if we disregard everything else, just that, to me, is interesting because it shows a different path when it comes to all of the other stuff, not just supersonic jets. It encapsulates a idea that will cover everything, hopefully, and not just supersonic jets. It means there is much more thought going into the ideas instead of just the fact that, ooh, look, new shiny, shiny plane. And for me, that's really important. Now, another thing as well is, even though I may not enjoy, once again, playing top tiers, and, I do enjoy watching it, I do enjoy the debates around it, but also, generally, a lot of the player base does as well, and therefore a lot of the new mechanics are coming to top tiers, whether it be supersonic jets, radar-guided AA, ESS systems, smoke launchers, whether it be stabilizers, which are mainly top tier, whether it be, if we think of helicopters as just a general mechanic, whether we talk about the biggest damage models in games, such as the light cruisers, all of these things are coming to the top tiers of their respective, game modes. So with that said, it is interesting to me to talk about mechanics. So because a lot of the mechanics are inherently coming to top tier vehicles, they are going to interlap a lot. So even though it may seem I'm talking about the top tier vehicles, a lot of the time I'm actually talking about the mechanics that are following onto them. And just because I don't enjoy playing them, I still enjoy discussing the mechanics. Let's give an example, right? So sports, okay? I do not like playing football, or soccer for you Americans. I enjoy playing goalie, but I'm a rugby and a cricket guy. I do not enjoy playing football. What I do enjoy is watching it. And a lot of stuff in War Thunder, when it comes to top tier, is exactly like that. I enjoy discussing it. I enjoy seeing it, but playing it is not my cup of tea. I feel like a lot of people have the opposite opinion of cricket, where they don't really like watching it, but they enjoy playing it. And, this would be my kind of propeller stuff, and it would be my, rank 4 ground stuff. So, that's the way I see it. So there are different ways I personally approach different topics because of that. So even if I'm talking about, a Challenger dev blog, and I seem enthusiastic, it's because I am. The War Thunder for me is a game which gives me exactly what I've wanted out of games for a long time. A massively open experience which focuses on combat of the military kind, and now encapsulates even maybe 4 if you want to, but 3 branches of, military. You've got the Navy, which are nearly completely finished. You've got the air, which are moving to modern day. You've got ground forces, which are nearly at modern day. And for me, as somebody who is really interested in history, as somebody who started, learning a lot about World War II at a young age, War Thunder, just as a whole, is really, really interesting. And just from that belief and seeing it grow from that point, what it means is stuff that's being added to the top tier should be discussed, because it still grows the game, it still adds stuff to it, even though I personally don't want to play it. Now, let's talk about another kind of contradiction in my head, and I think this is something that just kind of needs to be ironed out for, a lot of you guys watching. So, I approach game modes differently across the board, and this may be a little bit confusing to a lot of people, and the reason for this is because I see certain game modes to be inherently more competitive than others. So for me, the naval game mode right now, it's just come into OBT. I prefer the rank 1 and the rank 2 stuff, just because it's faster, just because it's more nimble, there's more stuff going on. It's less, can I ammo rack that other destroyer and get an RNG hit, or, try and get a torpedo to kill him, instead of just, run around like a mad hen. That's why I prefer arcade in naval. And then in realistic, when it comes to aircraft and ground, I also have some different ways of approaching the game modes. I personally think, air realistic and ground realistic. They are very much fleshed out, and there is a lot of tactics and a lot of thought that can go into it, which can separate a good player from a great player. Now, I don't think I'm a great player. I think I'm a pretty good player, but I'm not outstanding, and I'm not great, and I'm not amazing. And when I watch people who are, amazing at the game, some of the guys that I play with, I realize that for me, it is once again really fun watching them do really well, but also the thing that ties me to stuff like aircraft and ground realistic is the way the game is played. Not necessarily the vehicles, not necessarily the BRs, not necessarily the capture points, but just the way it is played and the way different people approach it and how the meta changes depending on what people like to do. Now, when it comes to naval for me is the turn the brain off and kind of relax for a bit. It's kind of like the PvE game modes in War Thunder. So when I'm talking about naval, I talk about it in a lot less serious tone and instead a much more relaxed way. And I feel like this confuses a few people because, when I'm talking about air realistic or ground realistic, it's quite serious. It's quite, talking about the general components of them and how they work. And, it's very much trying to work out the optimum way of playing the game. But when it comes to naval, my head just goes straight to, well, let's just have a bit of fun. So there's no serious discussion in it. And I think this could throw a few people out of the loop because, the idea is, well, why don't you see naval as a game mode that you seriously discuss or a game mode that can be explored a lot? And the reason is because I don't. Like, I don't know how else to put it apart from my personal opinion of naval is I don't want to think. I just want to shoot. And it's kind of my game mode where I just go just to relax. When I've played too much aircraft or I've played too much ground and my brain is a little bit frazzled. And it's as simple as that. But I think it is important for people watching now to understand my thought process when it comes to these different, game modes. So when we're talking about air realistic, we're talking very seriously about it and the tactics behind it. Same with ground realistic, but whenever I'm talking about naval, just understand you're going to get a more relaxed opinion. You're going to get something which is much more based on arcade naval gameplay and not realistic naval gameplay. So you can see that talking now, and through this video, I have logical inconsistencies in my head, but they're all based around what I like to play in the game. But at the same time, I also understand that there is a community of people out there who all have different ideas, who all have different sets of beliefs, who all want to hear the news, who all want to hear my opinion on certain things. Even though I personally don't want to play them, I still want to, understand them. I still want to know what's going on. So I will still talk about them and I will still sit there and look at the, history of them. I will look at how I think they're going to work into the game. I will look at other people's opinions on them to try and get a better grasp of what's going on. And I don't think in life, in general, it should be that the only things that you either talk about or the only things that you discuss in a positive way are things that you like. I think it is very important to give credit to certain areas of life which you may have no interest in. Like tennis, right? I don't care about tennis. Tennis, to me, is two people with bats hitting a ball, and that's it. But when I see the statistics behind somebody like Roger Federer, right, and the amount of championships that he's won, the amount of the time he's won it over, the fact that he has been a legend for up or even over 15 years, you can really appreciate that from a layman's point of view. So when it comes to stuff like supersonic jets, that's basically what I'm doing. I am giving into the fact that I will not enjoy playing them, but I can still be enthusiastic about them because it is a next step in the game, and it will also give us a bunch of new mechanics that we can use and may also affect other parts of the game which I am interested in. And that is the key point right there. Because mechanics which are found at top tier, or which are given to new vehicles, are sometimes spread to other BRs. Scouting mechanic, great example. Smoke, another great example. They are tested on a few vehicles and then they are put on everything. So it is important to look at the new mechanics to see what may affect the area of the game that you enjoy playing. So, as I said, I understand I have inconsistencies when it comes to my logic, and they are influenced on what I enjoy playing in the game. And I think from a viewer's point of view, your guys' point of view, is you should know about these, and you should obviously know about my biases. This is very important when you come to this channel, that you understand that I am interested in aerialistic, ground realistic, naval arcade, rank 1 and 2 naval, prop, aerialistic, and rank 4 to reserve ground vehicles. That is my base, and anything from there is extrapolated and is very much opinion based and a little bit less structured. I hope this video has made sense to you. I know it's a little bit confusing, to be honest. It's a little bit all over the place, but I think you can understand why I've made it. And hopefully, over the next few days we get a dev server, so I can show you all the vehicles, and I'll make sure to go through, the stats on them, the modifications and everything like that. And once again, even though I may not be interested in it, the biases will be out the window, and I'll just, go straight through and show you what these vehicles are. You got to be consistent in your logic. It's the only way to be. Otherwise, you'll start hammering yourself into a wall and wonder why you can't get out of it. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.